Where's the fire?
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of In Bed with Belinda Love, where we pull back the covers on real raw topics relating to love, dating and intimacy. And today I have a very special guest. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You'll probably
Lovely to be in bed with you.
You'll probably remember him from Married at First Sight, also known as Jonesy, by Andrew to me, or Jonesy Jones.
Hey, I'm Andrew.
Besides getting married twice, being a fan favourite and quickly becoming a villain on the popular reality TV show Married at First Sight, Jonesy has a few more things under his belt. He's a fireman, was in Perth's firefighters calendar in 2012, look out ladies, teaches music to kids, plays in a band and is just an all-round funny guy.
So today, why I've got Andrew on the show is because I want to talk about topics regarding our mindset and how that affects relationships. And what I mean by that is 80% of our mindset, we focus on negative thoughts, and 20% of the time we're focusing on positive thoughts. And I thought Andrew, or Jonesy, would have been a great person to bring on the show for this because of, I guess, his experience with Married at First Sight and also his intelligence regarding relationships.
And he's old. He's had a few relationships.
Have you?
Yeah.
How many have you had?
I think I'd say I'd round it to 4 like long-term relationships.
Yeah.
I usually get to sort of 3.5 years, and either freak out or realise that something's not quite right, perhaps. But yeah, stayed friends with all my exes, which I think is really important.
Yeah. Okay. I went to go into coaching mode of why do you think it? But no, I won't do that.
Straight away.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'll be in tears.
No.
I'll walk out and go.
And then you'll
Who am
call.
I?
You'll call me 4 days later and go, "Oh my God, yes, revelation!" No.
Yes.
So I wanted to sort of warm you up a little bit, ask you some of the hot questions I think most of my followers and audience will be wanting to know, and then I want to get into some really raw topics. So firstly, I wanted to see how you're doing since the show.
Yeah, not doing too bad. Yeah. Definitely been an interesting year.
Yeah.
A lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Going into the show, sort of, my mindset was, what's the worst that can happen? And I sort of, in my head, I prepared for the worst by thinking, if everything goes wrong, I've still got my job, my friends, my hobbies, and it's almost just as well because, the end of the series was horrible.
Yeah.
So that's what made it a tricky year. But I'm really lucky. I've got a good life, but I am someone that probably cares a lot about what other people think. So having millions of people watch something shown the way it was, or and what happened was it was tricky, and not just on me, friends and family as well. It was an interesting one.
I want to get into more about that, but first I want to ask you what enticed you to go on the show in the first place?
Look, I got sort of scouted for the show, left a phone number and tried to recruit some fireys, and I heard they do it with the police.
Okay.
A few other jobs as well. I returned a phone call, and before I knew it, I was being interviewed, and the next day I was getting flown to Sydney to I was in the last sort of 10-15 in The Bachelor 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
Flown to Sydney for that as well.
Wow.
And I didn't really think it through, to be honest. I'm a bit of a yes person. I like trying different things, whether it's sport or fun stuff. And I literally thought, why not? Yeah. And I might just meet the love of my life.
Yeah.
I might become a villain.
Which I want to talk to you more about as well. So, and this is the reason why I've come back to this topic of 80% negative thoughts, 20% positive thoughts. And I've been on a reality TV show, and I know how they can be produced, and I know that they sort of entice you to talk about certain topics and encourage you to be really honest with your opinions and thoughts, which is great, but then they'll take those snippets and they can put them out of context.
Absolutely.
But having said that, our mindset is also very focused on drawing out the negative, in the sense that when people watch that, despite how much positive you bring, they're purely focusing on the negative.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and you can see they do have a storyline that they choose, and they try and make characters, and if they can find a way of developing an angle, they'll use all the tricks of their trade to sort of develop you in that way. I guess, look, it didn't go so well for me at the end, and probably a safer thing would have been just to sort of keep my mouth shut. My journey throughout the whole thing with, first of all, Lauren, the runaway bride, and then Cheryl. Yeah, things were really bad with Cheryl. The homestays were terrible, and I tried to leave the show twice. It wasn't really easy.
Yeah.
And I was just a mess. So I mean, what you saw was me falling apart, basically. Yeah. So I was literally melting down at the end, and you see me, tell Cheryl she was a full shit. And we had an argument just before that.
But on that note, like, people have really been negative about that, but we're all guilty of that. Do you know what I mean? Like, calling people out. But
context, in or out of context, and it certainly was out of context, but either way, it doesn't look good. And I guess it's maybe not on such a big scale, but in another sense, or another environment, it would have been good. It's always good to look back and reflect on what you're doing, and ideally, if something's really bothering me or someone's being horrible, the gentleman thing would be just to keep your mouth closed. Or, I mean, it's not always the easiest thing to do, but
in that environment, it's heightened though, and you're under huge amounts of pressure, and we often say and think things that we probably wouldn't normally do.
Yeah.
But having said that, I want to tie it back into relationships. So we've discussed that, and I want to thank you for being really raw about that and genuine. I hope people can see this and really see a side of Jonesy that wasn't portrayed on the show. Blue Steel. Vogue.
Strike.
Robot. What's this? How long does it go for?
So much you can do from the West up.
Yeah. Mainly, I want to talk about your opinion on dating and that negative thought and how it can affect. Because in social media these days, Tinder, we get in an argument with our partner, we go, oh, whatever, we're going to walk away because that's one negative thing that's happened. We can now find something else. So, what is your opinion on that?
On negativity?
In relationships and communication, and how people sort of just give up really easily.
Yeah. Look, we had a discussion about this earlier, and you're of the opinion that people perhaps give up more easily than they might used to, and they might have used to in the past.
Yeah.
I think you've definitely got to have persistence. A relationship, something that you build and work at. Love at first sight or anything at first sight, is always nice. It's a nice concept, but if you're building a relationship, you're going to need a bunch of qualities, and negativity's always going to be there. We're human, and it's a quality of the human personality and persona.
It's our mechanics. It's a survival thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's okay to feel that negativity. It's obviously how you deal with it is really important. But if you expect everything to be rosy the whole time, then it's probably unrealistic. So maybe see it as a challenge almost. Yeah. But there's obviously a time where you need to walk away, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, if you can. If you're not stuck on the TV show, then walking away is a good thing, I think, sometimes, and to give each other breathing space in a relationship or outside of it, or walking away completely. But you've got to give it a good go.
Yeah. And that's when I talk about the differences between settling and compromise. I think in relationships we do need to make a certain amount of compromise, but when it's to a point of sacrificing your own happiness or doing something that doesn't please you 90% of the time, I think there'll be often times where you're not happy consistently, but it's about how you progress within that relationship, how you communicate with that person, and how you put that at rest and not hold grudges and not continually to bring it up and blame and get angry at that person for an incident that you should have resolved or had peace around. And that is, I think, why I thought you'd be a perfect candidate to talk about that, because there's been one thing in his life that has now really tainted a lot of it since then, and I really admire you for your strength in that, because it's really challenging when you've got strangers consistently saying things. I've faced it as well, not to that extent, so I don't understand. My experience is very different, but I really want people to understand that when you're in a relationship and you're not communicating well and but you do love that person, you don't just focus on the negative. You need to then step back, recap, look at all the positives, and if it's just one negative, work through it and communicate, because the grass isn't always green on the other side, and you will need to mow the lawn when you change houses, you know. So yeah, so that was my Dr. Phil moment.
Very good. I'm taking it all in.
Oh, good. Is there anything that you do want to share about love and relationships that you love that you feel wasn't portrayed about you on the show accurately?
Oh, look, I mean, you know what the shows are like. Shell and I probably had 30 dates, and about 2 were shown. So it's really hard. I think it's always going to be hard for people to get the real anyone when they're watching the show. Yeah, look, what would I like people to see about me? Look, going into it, to be honest, before I went on, I thought, I'm a down-to-earth person. I'm pretty honest and raw. I'd love to bring some just raw honesty to reality TV.
Yeah, I agree.
Some real reality, because I think reality TV is becoming, you know, it's
sensationalized, it's drama, it's the hype.
It's almost more as produced as some, you know, drama that you see on TV.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd be able to do that. I was confident that I could. And I actually thought I did. And it wasn't until, you know, the series got aired that you start seeing where they've gone with the show. And, you know, halfway through, you know what it's like. You get producers asking you questions and it won't make sense. And why on earth are they asking me that?
Where's the direct line of where they're guiding me to get a result?
Absolutely, yeah. Why did you have Shells back? And I'm thinking, I've just tried to leave the show. They know we're not together.
Yeah.
Why are they trying to go down that path? You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tricky situation, to be honest.
And I don't think, and I don't know, but you know, there's with every action there's a reaction as well. So something would have had to have happened in that incident for you to react like that as well.
Yeah.
And I know you've learned from that, and you don't, whatever. I guess you don't want to say anything bad about her anymore. I guess.
Yeah, there's no point.
No. There's peace there around that scenario, but I think I really want people to see truly who you are, and that's a really kind, compassionate, giving, loving person. And there's some truly personal things that I know about Jonesy that he's doing just to put himself out there for other people. And
thanks.
And moving forward for you, how does it look in that regard? Has it tainted your opinion on love? Or?
No, not at all. Like, it's so removed from, you know, the real life relationship experiences. It really was a separate thing to anything, you know, I've experienced before in relation to dating. I've definitely needed a break, and also being noticed everywhere I go. Still in Perth a year later, people still come out for photos and want to chat constantly. If I'm at a bar or out in public, even talking to someone, especially if it's a girl, you can see people looking and pointing, and almost feel their mind ticking over, going, okay, that's not Cheryl.
Yeah.
That's not the girl. Oh, he's back dating again.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Or you know, who is she?
And then they get the phone out and Google, and they're looking at their phone and looking at you, and it's like, just say hi.
Yeah. I'm cautious that would affect somebody else.
Okay.
That's probably first protocol. I wouldn't want anything negative, first of all, to come of someone dating me. So the backlash side of things, or just the extra attention as well. So I guess I want to be someone that knows what they're in for, and you know, some people like that anyway. And I'm also aware of attracting the wrong type of people.
And on that note, I just wanted to say, we often have this mindset that nobody will love us because of the quirk or because of a physical feature that we don't necessarily like. For example, I want you to know that there is one person out there in this world that will see you for who you are and love you for all of those bits. And the perfections, imperfections, however you want to perceive them, but it's how you work through when there's negative times or difficult times that get you through, I guess, a long-lasting relationship. All right, well, I think that's everything. Did you enjoy that?
I did.
Yeah.
We're in bed.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna just bye, everybody.
Gotta go.
Oh, what are you doing?
Where are we?
I should probably say that we're not in a dodgy hotel room.
Not yet.
After the Sexpo after party. Okay, I'll sign off.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to follow or subscribe, links are down below. Fix my hair, be sure.
Oh,
Oh,
so sorry.
that's okay. Be sure to follow Jonesy on his Instagram. Jonesy, what is it? How can we find you?
Jonesy, Jonesy, Jonesy.
Oh, there's underscores in there.
Can't leave comments yet.
Be nice,
One
guys.
day.
This is a place
Nah,
of
everyone's
love.
lovely.
Yeah,
I receive hundreds of messages of support.
yeah.
Many, many, many.
Which then goes back to that 80%, 20%
Oh yeah.
focus.
80% love.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. I'll have some more episodes with some pretty exciting people. So tune in. Ah.
Ta-da! It's a real emergency. Daddy emergency.
Great.
Bye.
Bye. And that was Jonesy.
Where's the fire?
Under the sheets. Because he has a lot more under his fireman's belt than the TV show.
I'm gonna boner.
Oh. It's not.
That actually suits you.
Does it?
Yeah.
Do I look cute?
Yes. Belinda, I am your father.
Oh shit! That's incest. Joking.
Indeed.
I hope I pressed record. I did think of that. Can you check it?